It was a powerful testimony. This girl was giving me a tour of the facility after we had already done church service and I worshiped. I was just there to back up a pastor, a friend of mine, and he did the preaching. I ministered with the music, and there was about 100 of them packed into that little church. It was a big facility. I think it's called Walter Covington Home. I prayed for the director of the thing. She had a back pain. The power of God hit her. She got healed. She freaked out. She said, let me give you guys a tour. And she got these two younger girls to give me and this other young brother that was helping us a tour of the place. And I was blown away. I mean, this is a place, this is acreage. This place has acreage of land. And this girl, I don't know, she's in her early 20s, maybe late teens, with another girl. And they're asking me questions about God as we're walking around. They're showing us all the facilities. So they're walking me around, and all of a sudden, this girl, we starts asking me a God question. And in the middle of me talking to her, the power of God hits me so strong. And I feel like the Lord is like squeezing my heart. And I start to cry, like right there as we're standing like in a hallway. Just me, this other young man, and the two young women that are in the Covington home. I thought they worked there, but they're not. They were actually in there for whatever reason, drugs or whatever. And I started to weep, and I was saying, what in the world is going on? Why am I crying? And I'm weeping, and the Lord directs me to this one girl, and he says, I want to heal her heart. She has a trauma in her past, and the Lord begins to download and give me word of knowledge about a tragedy that happened to this girl. Now, I don't know specifically what the tragedy was, but I know the Lord said, wants me to minister to this young lady. I look at her and I'm weeping. I said, I don't know why I'm crying, but the power of God, I told her, is touching me so strong right now that I feel the pain that you felt. I said, something happened to you, and Jesus wants to heal you. I said, something really painful happened to you, and the Lord wants to heal you right now. And when I said that to her, she began to weep. So now imagine this, we're just standing there, we just met like 5 minutes before. She's giving me a tour of this place, and we're standing, and the power of God hit us both. She starts weeping. I finally gather myself, and she says, I never told anyone this before in my life. So this is her confessing for the first time this thing that happened to her. You know what this girl tells me? She says when she was 15 or 16 years old, I don't remember, she was at church, and the pastor's son raped her in the church. Okay? So get that. What do you think that's going to do to a young lady? She's in a church, and the pastor's son rapes her in the church. What a dirty devil. Now you know why that girl wound up in a home for women. Because, you know, after a trauma like that happens, that's when she turned to drugs. She said she started to go in the streets. She started hanging out with wrong people. No, she was traumatized. She couldn't tell anybody. It was the pastor's son. Who's she going to tell? She's 15 years old. She ain't going to tell her parents that happened. They're going to think she's, you know, this is what she's thinking. She's a 15-year-old girl. She's going to think, nobody's going to believe me. So this girl confesses this to me for the first time, and she's weeping as she's telling me this story, and that power lifts off my heart where I don't feel that squeezing anymore. And I tell her, I look at her square in the eye, and I said, Jesus is going to heal you right now. I didn't even lay hands on her. She was already getting touched. She was already getting healed. So the other girl that was there, I said, do me a favor, get your hand and put it on her heart. And then I'm going to put my hand on top of yours. So she puts her hand on that girl's heart. And when I put my hands on that girl's heart and start praying for her, man, the power of God falls on that girl. She just starts weeping uncontrollably. I say maybe for about 3 minutes. When she stopped weeping and she lifted her head up, she looked like a completely different person. Her whole countenance had changed. Jesus came right there and just pulled that thing out of her heart. And that girl was delivered. We started to walk out. She gave me a big hug. I mean, it's unbelievable what Jesus does. Just out of nowhere, unexpected like that. Walking through this place. and Jesus just shows up, because that girl's parents were praying for her, man. And she said when she would go out partying and drinking and all that, she would come home and her parents would be on their knees in the living room. Whatever time she got home, they would still be there. Sometimes 2, 3 in the morning, 4 in the morning. She would find that her parents asleep, like in the living room, on their knees sometimes, because they were just praying for her. They just fell asleep praying for her. So that was the Lord answering those parents' prayers, I believe it, sending me there and using me. I began to prophesy over her. The Lord gave me a word for her, and I began to prophesy over and tell her that the Lord is going to use her to deliver other girls from similar traumas, because that's what God does.